Greetings, adventurers. This is DM Kurt, and I kind of want to give you a play-by-play for how I wrote my last campaign. It was a sort of sandbox style, sort of, and it was called The Colony at Terra Incognita. Now, the first thing you have to do is think of what is the theme of your campaign going to be. For mine, I picked the colonization of North America, and I got a book called Terra Incognita at the library, which described, the finding of this new land that nobody known about. And so I snagged that name, and I thought, you know what, that's a good name. It's a good start. And I had to think, what kind of themes, what's my bibliography going to look like? What source materials am I going to get inspiration from? So I found the TV show Ancient Aliens is a fun one. There was a mini series called Barkskins on Dish Network. It might be available on Netflix. It was about eight episodes long, and it was about an English and a French colony and scheming that happened within them and little skirmishes and whatnot. I thought that was kind of fun. I found a book about what was it called? I believe it was called Chasing North American Monsters. It was all about the cryptids of North America. Perfect, because I kind of wanted to use the American mythology and reskin a bunch of monsters as something new and different. We ended up fighting the Jersey Devil at one point. That was a reskinned green dragon. It's funny. You change the physical appearance of something, and you can make it in a whole new monster if you're not too obvious about its abilities. Maybe change the damage type. I got into that in one of my earlier videos about reskinning monsters. What else did I use? Well, just a few ideas here and there. So, next thing I needed was a map. No, I'm not great at drawing maps. I tried sketching on a few maps, did not like how any of them looked. So I grabbed the map from the Isle of Dread module. It's just the map. It's a great map. You got one large island and a bunch of little islands around it. And it has both a player side and a DM side. The player side just has the edge of the island and nothing in the interior. Nothing, blank. You have no idea. The DM side, fully fleshed out map, and each encounter location is numbered, and you can run it that way. What I did is I just kind of threw out the key. There's these dots and these numbers. What am I going to make those be? First thing, terrain features. Okay, if that's a mine, I think I'll keep it as a mine or a potential mine. There's a former fort here. I put 2 forts down. One was the Tal'Darai fort, which the players would be from or hired to be from. And on the far side of the island, I put in a Dwendalian fort. Now, Tal'Darai and Dwendalian, those are nations from the Wildmount or Tal'Darai books. They would eventually go to war with or without the PCs involved. With the PCs not involved, the Dwendalians would have won. I said, okay, we have a big place. In the northwest, I'm going to put the Alcide, a centaur-like elk hybrid with a strong Fey influence. Okay, that gives me an idea. We will have some weak barriers to the Feywild, so weird creatures can show up. We had in the northwest something like lizardmen, because there's a great big swamp there. What else are you going to put in there? But just lizardmen's perfect. The Subek from Creature Codex or Tome of Beasts is a stronger lizard man. They're a little more crocodilian. They're generally peaceful, but I made them very hyper aggressive. And that center mesa, that had to be something. That had to be something. We'll get back to that. I wanted to populate this place with Aarakocra in great number. They would have the Hawk Nation running the plains, hunting wherever they wished, and they would have a coastal Aarakocra that fished, and that would be your main NPCs that you would first encounter. Flipping back through the Tome of Beasts and the North American Cryptids books, the Great Thunderbird stuck out. Perfect. The Aarakocra now worship the Great Thunderbird, and it lives over on the mesa, so we think. Yeah, the PCs were quite surprised when they found a single feather 6 feet long, and it wasn't. And then with a nature check, decided, oh, this probably isn't one of the longest feathers on whatever bird this was. So they know there's something big out there, and maybe the Aarakocra are right. So maybe we shouldn't attack those guys. A little heavy-handed, maybe. Maybe I was. But it was a little while in before the PCs found that out, so they could have attacked the Aarakocra and gotten into big trouble. So I have my factions, and each of them wants something to do. They each have a goal. Every faction in your campaign should have a goal. I added another faction. Well, there's mines. Who did the mining? Dwarves is the obvious answer. But again, from North American Cryptids, there was a one of the Native American tribes in the U.S., somewhere maybe the central eastern coast, had a myth of these things called the Moonite people. A very short people with blank white eyes that would come out at night and do magical mischief and steal children and whatever. That sounds a lot like Darrow. And they're also very parallel to the Chocolos, a small magical dwarf-like bad thing from South African myth. Perfect. Let's throw those in there. So the mining is done by Darrow, but those mines have been abandoned, and the Darrow went underground for whatever reason. Probably because they're about half crazy. Or some leader rose up amongst them and has some kind of plans or goals. Again, plans and goals. Have your factions have an intent. Maybe set up a timeline where if the PCs don't intervene, something will happen. Now, your PCs don't have to interfere with every single faction's goals, but if things on a regular basis move around without the players causing it, then they get this feeling that, this is a living world. Things will happen with or without me. And maybe I can change how this works. It's not just sitting there waiting for me to play with it. It's not just a bunch of toys dumped out onto the floor for me to play with or ignore. But that's how I set that up. And we had a few things pop up here and there, and those hooks became things that the PCs could try to investigate, try to deal with, or not. Another thing I did is I created a random encounter chart. I think random encounter charts are great if you do them right. So writing up the chart, you're going to make a list of all the monsters you want to use or might consider using. And by writing it and getting that visual in your face of this is what's here, that kind of makes you think about whether or not you want that creature there. Would it fit? Would it be level appropriate? Maybe, maybe not, but would it fit? And then don't roll on the table, not in front of the players. Roll the night before. Say, okay, boom, boom, boom. For next session, here's the next 4 encounters in order that I want to throw at them. And not every encounter is going to be something they have to face. They can ignore some of them. But if you roll on a random encounter chart in front of your players, then they know that you're just throwing dice and having something pop up. They know that it's not part of your plot line, but something that's just random. So they will think nothing of it. It's like, oh, there's something for us to fight, loot it, leave it. Anyway, that's part 1 of setup for the colony at Terra Incognita. Thanks. DM Kurt out.